Let me just say first, Mr. Borough President, that I know you belong to all of Brooklyn, but we feel a special privilege of having you as a neighbor since our church is down the street from the Borough Hall here in downtown Brooklyn. And you've got many more months left in your post, but since this might be my last chance to speak to you directly ever again, I want to thank you for the opportunity that you've given us to have you here with us. Thank you for showing up for us here at the Pro Cathedral St. Anne and the Holy Trinity Church in the Diocese of Long Island often, and for engaging the faith community, entrusting us with leadership, and relying on us to support you in the many ways that you've tried to help folks in our borough. I want to also thank you for appointing Gil Monrose as your liaison through the Office of the Faith-Based and Clergy Initiatives, because he's awesome, a dynamo, always reliable, a trusted colleague, and a genuine friend. So thank you. Gil made this possible in many ways, and so let's get on with it. The bishop wants to ask you about the state of the borough emerging from the pandemic and still dealing with issues of racial inequality and epidemic of gun violence and other challenges. You are, of course, a candidate for mayor, and we want to hear about your vision for the city. We're working on having conversations with other candidates, so this interview is not an endorsement, and we hope to have many others with other conversations with other candidates, but we are so grateful and glad that you've agreed to kick this off. So with that, I'll turn this over to you and the bishop. Bishop, why don't I let you carry on from here?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Canon Dinero. Mr. Borough President, it is great to see you again. We often run into each other while you're sitting in the pew somewhere in one of our churches. And I'm always grateful when you're out there and showing your support to the work of our diocese. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity that we have today. Canon Dinero has been very clear about the fact that he would really want me to ask you to talk a little bit about how the borough is doing as we emerge from the pandemic, and what are some of the struggles, but also some of the opportunities that are provided for the borough. And so I'll let you respond to that, and we can then have a conversation.
And I'm sure you and all the leaders of the church, you are aware more than anyone that although we engage in this conversation about the impact of COVID, the reality is that we were not doing well pre-COVID. We were dealing with a large number of homelessness, unemployment, crime was creeping up. The real failure, and I like to say the betrayal of our cities across America to really deal with the problems we're facing in these various cities and communities. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has a quote, Bishop. He states that we spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. No one goes upstream and prevent them from falling in the first place. Mm-hmm. We have become professionals across America and in New York and just waiting downstream to pull people out of homelessness, healthcare crises, lack of education, unemployment, crime. And we can't continue to run cities this way anymore. And so when I look at COVID-19, it just amplified our failures to really be an upstream city and thinker. We did not test the countless number of people in the areas that were hardest hit. Our vaccine rollout was deplorable. We left out a substantial number of Black and brown and immigrant communities. Mm-hmm. And even the food we were delivering through our food pantries and through the food delivery services, we had an opportunity to start engaging in healthy food choices and change some of the bad habits that we have witnessed that really fed to the comorbidities. 90% of the people who died from COVID-19 died because of comorbidities, and even 90% of those who were hospitalized also had comorbidity and pre-existing conditions. And so we were able to really muster support, not only locally, but nationally and internationally, to distribute PPEs, food, ventilators, and other services to our first responders and to those who are in need. but we could do a better job if we're more structured, more organized, and really move to a place of managing our assets and having an equitable distribution of those assets. And I like to use the term in real time. And so there's a lot of things we could have learned. This is a teaching moment.
Mhm.
And we're going to continue to learn from this opportunity how to do better.
Mr. Borough President, you know that if Brooklyn were returned to being a city, it would be the fourth largest city in the world, and particularly in the country. I like to think of Brooklyn, which is where I was born and raised, as a city of churches, which makes me want to ask, in your vision as we move this forward, and work to get upstream, is there a specific role that you think the faith community should be entrusted with?
Yes, the foundation of my mayoralty lies in the faith-based institutions throughout the borough, because of not only my interaction during my professional life as a police officer and during my life as an elected as a state senator and a borough president. I am aware of how the faith-based institutions in our city operate, but even as a child, it was the faith-based institutions that and many times filled the gap where government failed us. Everything from clothing to food to helping us during those times when mom could not pay her mortgage, to really just counseling when we may have stumbled and made poor choices. So my plan as mayor is to look towards the faith-based institution in several ways. Number one, I'm going to give you the funding and opportunity to do the housing development around senior housing, returning citizens, those who are coming home from incarceration housing, foster children who are aging out, people who are dealing with mental health illnesses, supportive housing. I'm going to tell my faith-based leaders, look at on your block, find the city-owned real estate and properties, and you have first dibs at coming up with a plan or proposal on how you're going to develop it for the issues that we need. But second, every day you feed hundreds of thousands of people. I am going to properly fund the food pantries and the individuals who are operating as staffers in your various faith-based institutions to really go after helping people have good, solid, nutritional, healthy food as we deal with the food insecurity and crisis. I believe it's crucial for the faith-based industry to play a major role in dealing with mental health illnesses. The money that we're spending is Thrive, the almost $1 billion. That money should be used in our faith-based industries, institutions, because you're doing the work already. And so what I say in essence, even to upzoning of the spaces around your churches, I believe you should be able to do it in a 1 square mile, not only next door or across the street. You are doing God's work, and we need to really lean into what you are doing already. And I'm going to be an advocate and get it right, and we're going to have a real partnership.
No, that's really welcome news, and I'm really glad to hear that you're focused on a collaborative way for us to deal with what are significant systemic issues for the city. About a half hour before we began this webinar, I was being tutored in the efforts the diocese is making to deal with racial inequality. I was being tutored about on the issue of redlining and its effects in neighborhoods, particularly in Brooklyn. And I have a strong feeling that our congregations, particularly in Brooklyn, might play a role in how we address the inequality that redlining has created over decades in the city. And I'm wondering if you've had any opportunity to give some thought to that in relationship to your years as the Brooklyn Borough President.
And it is something that we hear often, and that redlining impacts in several ways. It really impacts property value. It impacts the ability to get a loan, a low interest loan. for your purchasing of a home. It also impacts on how we treat those who are seeking loans. I believe the city can use the billions of dollars that we put into banks every year, taxpayers' dollars. We can leverage those dollars to put in place a real local banking network, not only for small businesses, but also how do we creatively move people in the direction of home ownership? Everything from credit repair to how to do your first time home buyer, and then compel our banks to ensure you don't take out a red pen, join a line around a community and decide you're not going to give the access to capital for home ownership. And even our insurance companies should play a role as well. Sometimes it's extremely challenging to get the right insurance for the right cost amount because of where you are living. When you look at even along our waterfront, where we're dealing with a high level of damage from hurricanes to storms to superstorms, we must not really do a disproportionate or have a disproportionate impact on these communities. Many of them are poorer communities, and we need to be focused on not treating residents of this city differently based on their zip codes.
Well, thank you for that response. I can hear in the background your real concern about those inequities. One of the pieces of it that we are beginning to try to combat is the fact that the lower equity in real estate, particularly in places like Brooklyn, disadvantages families for providing higher education opportunities for their children. And we're looking at ways of doing that. It would be wonderful if the federal government would decide that they were going to forgive all those student loans and give everyone a leg up, but that's not going to help the generation coming behind them. And I suspect we need to really have a strategy on how to provide for higher education for this next generation.
That's so important. And even in the student loan forgiveness conversation, we are going to lose a large number of those who have a challenge around the economics of it, because some of the loans are private loans. They go outside to I'm talking about forgiving. If we're going to do a forgiveness plan, we need to make sure that we're forgiving the largest population that are in need of forgiveness. It can't be just doing it in a non-precision way. Whatever we do, we should do it to get the results we're looking for. And if we're not careful, we can have a negative impact on what we're actually attempting to accomplish.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So I want to ask one more question. I know we're going to run out of time. You spent your professional career before politics as a police officer, and the years before my becoming bishop, I was an emergency service chaplain for over a decade. And although I want to champion the work of those involved in Black Lives Matter and all of the momentum that has gone forward, particularly as we are a day away from the first anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, I wonder how you're negotiating that in terms of your own heart and soul. I've heard you make some statements about policing, and I'm wondering if this gives you an opportunity to maybe give some more voice to that.
Yes, public safety and justice is the prerequisite parity. We must be safe and we must have justice. We don't have to abandon the justice we deserve for the safety we need. And far too many people are to separate the two. And not only was I arrested and beat by police officers as a child at 15 years old, but I also lost a good friend to gun violence as a child because of the crack wars during that period of time. And so I understand the balance of the two. And I'm pretty sure that when you deal with parishioners, they do not have a consolation if their child was killed by a police officer in blue uniform or someone in a gangbanger in blue jeans. I'm going to bring that balance. And we do that by putting in place trust. We have to rebuild trust between police and communities. Public safety. As it stands now, we have police officers carrying out the role of public safety. That they are one of the components that should deal with dealing with mental health illnesses. We need to bring in community groups and bring in other organizations that know how to deal with conflict resolution and stop retaliatory shootings. So this is a great opportunity, a day away from the anniversary death of Mr. Floyd. This is a great opportunity for New York and America to redefine the ecosystem of public safety, something we have never done before. So out of a tragedy comes some clear opportunities. And I want to make sure that we lean into those opportunities and come away with a better public safety ecosystem where we all can raise healthy children and families.
Thank you for that. And let me say this to you both as the borough president and a candidate for mayor, that I hope at some point you will imagine including the clergy of our diocese as part of the team to be used to bridge some of those areas in the borough of Brooklyn. I think our clergy could serve well in trying to negotiate through some of those areas where issues of disparity, mental health, and the like are contributing factors to the policing issues that are before us. And I would imagine that we ought to have a lot more police chaplains. But that's something we can talk about some other time.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I am really grateful for the time that you've given us to do this today. You've gone over and above. You're still traveling, and so we've caught you in between gigs, and I'm very grateful to you for your time. Know that we will keep you in our prayers, as we will the other candidates, as the city decides who's going to be the next chief executive. And I want to just extend my pride that as a fellow Brooklynite, it is great to share this time with you. And God bless you, and God bless your team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and enjoy your day. Thank you.
Too.
Take
Thank
care.
you again.
Mr. President. And thank you all for watching. Thank you, Bishop.
You're welcome, John. Thank you.